Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. I call to order this work session of the Hillsboro School District Board of Directors. Before we begin, we would like to provide some important information about interpretation services. Please remember to speak clearly and directly into the microphones at a moderate pace. Please do not speak over one another so that interpreters can accurately convey your message. Thank you for your cooperation, and we are going to go ahead and begin with Michelle and our budget committee application.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, we have moved this up on the agenda because I believe we have one of our, both applicants are with us online. So I'm excited that we have two applicants we do have 3 vacancies on the budget committee. And so my recommendation would be to continue to hold that vacancy and just ongoing solicit applications. But we have Gabby Villegas and Christine Adams-Lunsford. Christine is an incumbent. She has served her term and she's reapplied. And Gabby is new, and I know that you had access to their application materials. And we've invited them here tonight to just share a little bit about themselves and their interest in serving on the committee. So I think we'll start with Christine. Christine, can you hear us?
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Oh, well, good evening, members of the Hillsboro School District Board. I really appreciate being able to be here tonight. I am playing for a second term on your budget committee. I have definitely described myself, and others have described me as a big budget nerd. I really enjoy going through the budget process, learning about the process, trying to provide a little bit of a different perspective based on my having been in budget for a long time, as well as being an auditor. In my day job, I'm the Washington County Auditor. I also, in the last 6 months, have become a member of the Oregon Department of Education's Audit Committee. I would love to be able to have the opportunity again to serve in this capacity. I kind of view it as an opportunity to be able to serve the district in a kind of a unique role. Very happy to be here and to be considered for this role, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Christine. Your enthusiasm is contagious. I, too, am excited about the budget process. Gabby, would you like to introduce yourself and talk about your interests?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Gabby Villegas, and I'm really excited and looking forward to this opportunity to kind of give back to the community. Here in Hillsboro. I've lived in Hillsboro for about 7 years now. And in my day job, I am a management analyst for the city of Hillsboro. And so I do work a lot with our city budget. So by being a part of this will help me kind of get another, perspective as kind of like what Christine said, and I am a numbers girl, so I do enjoy looking at numbers all day long. So given the opportunity, I'm really looking forward to working with this team and kind of giving my kind of suggestions, ideas, anything like that that is needed.
Gabby, thank you. Are there any questions for Gabby? All right, so next steps in the process, in our regular session downstairs, we will call for appointments. My recommendation would be to forward both applicants in sections 3 and 4. So we'll again do that in regular session. After that, I'll be reaching out to both Gabby and Christine for an onboarding to the budget committee so that they have a clear idea, more of the details of the role and expectations in participation. So Thank you guys very much both for being here this evening. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us.
Erica, wait, Erica Lopez has a question.
I just wanted to say thank you to Christine again for volunteering her time for another term on the budget committee, and also thank you, Gabby, for volunteering your time and serving on this committee for us as well.
It's a pleasure.
It doesn't matter if it's Christine in position 3 or 4 currently.
Christine is in position 4 currently.
Okay,
So can we,
consistency's sake, when we make the motion,
I have
try to let her stay on the same
my motion to put Christine in 4, please.
Okay.
okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Christine.
No.
Thank you. Say something, Christine? So we'll go ahead and move to the next agenda item. We do, let's see,
No, calendar.
back to the calendar feedback survey with Ryan.
Oh, thank you. Are you going to present? Oh, there you go. Okay. As you know, our calendar committee has put out a survey which closed on October 31st. And so they met on the 7th to go over the information. And I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what they've gathered. These are the number of respondents by group that it was sent out to. Just for your information, we have 2,662 licensed and classified staff. So about 46% took the survey out of that number there. And we only had 169 community members who participated. You can go to the next one. There were 5 questions that were asked. This first one was explicitly asked about starting before Labor Day. Go through these and just summarize the data for you. Just so you know, I'm going to summarize this. 2 sections, strongly agree, and then these 2 sections, disagree and strongly disagree, kind of put those together to give you a better perspective. So for this first section, it was pretty apparent that people did not want to begin the year before Labor Day with the data that we got. So for example, staff, 24% agreed that that would be a good thing, but 55% disagreed. Families, it was close to the same. 25% agree, 59% disagree, and community was aligned almost exactly the same. 26% agree and 58% disagreed that that would be a good idea. Can you go to the slide? This talked about a break between school ending and summer school beginning. Again, it's we'd have to start a little bit earlier to make this happen. And so again, the results were about the same as the first question. More staff disagreed with that proposition than agreed with it. Same with families, same with communities. With the community was a little bit more split, 36% agree and 39% disagree. Start time similar to other districts around us. This is pretty evenly distributed among staff and families. Community thought it was a good idea. So, you know, staff said 40% agree, 38% disagree. They were very close. Families is almost dead even. Community, 50% said, sure, that sounds like a great idea. 22% disagreed.
Sounds like a weird thing to disagree on. Just, I mean, like, I get you vote, you don't want to, like the question 1, don't start before Labor Day, but while aligning the calendars, like you can see, some people, yeah, probably would be a good idea. But like, how do you still like strongly disagree on that? That's
Question 4 had to do with building in snow days to the school year. Again, very evenly distributed, except community thought it was a good idea. So staff was split, families were split. Community, 53% agreed that that was a good idea and 28% disagreed. And then the final question that was asked, whether or not you'd want a 2-year calendar versus a 1-year. Staff prefer a 2-year calendar. Families are split. And community are okay with just having a 1-year calendar at a time.
Interesting.
And just to kind of summarize what was shared, and this is just kind of what we gleaned looking at things from 10,000 feet. Preference was definitely for a post-Labor Day start. Some concerns that were in the comments, they were worried about weather being too hot, especially for activities outside like football and band. Family vacations and traditions was a big concern with starting earlier. And then possible negative impacts on fall activities, again, kind of couched in the weather and how that would impact that. There was also some interesting comments about, even though there was not interest in a pre-Labor Day start, there were some comments that kind of came out about, hey, have we ever considered a year-round school? Have we ever considered longer breaks during the school year? There was quite a few people who really wanted to have like a longer winter break or a fall break that would happen, or a 2-week spring break that they do in some states, to kind of expand that out. So next steps, the calendar committee just met on the 7th, and their next steps are going to be to put together a 25-26 calendar, and that'll be coming before the board for you in December. They put a pause on the 26-27 school year calendar just for now. They want to, that one's a little bit trickier because Labor Day falls on the 7th. So if we start post Labor Day that year, we're going to be pushing deep into June by the end of the year. So that's something that they need calendar. So what they would like to do is propose 1 year for now, to meet as a committee and to see if there is interest in continuing the committee, and perhaps get a second calendar for the 26-27 school year in front of the board in the spring.
Can you remind us who's on the committee?
Yeah, it's a combination of teachers, administrators, classified staff. Do you have community members on there?
Mink is on there, yes, but not anybody that isn't connected to our school. Mary Kay sits on the committee as well. So it's a great partnership that we've been doing. And people are learning how to build a calendar for a school year, and it's hard.
So, okay, that's good.
It's been a great, what I will say is it's been a great learning experience, I think, for everybody, and it's not as easy as you think. And I think sometimes people think it's simple to put dates on a calendar, and it's been a great learning experience and great discussions and really, really thought-provoking ideas.
Any questions?
No, our admin team's pretty consistently asserted that a pre-Labor Day start would be more beneficial for students. When you brought the survey results to the calendar committee, can you share any of the reactions or thoughts that the committee had, or if it changed how their perspective on what they were working on?
I would say, because I'm sitting on that one, that they a polarizing view around pre-Labor Day and post-Labor Day, and it was hard to discern where they're not thought as a benefit or not because of the number of days, whether 4 days earlier would be better or not. If that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, just the feedback is only one side. The calendar committee has been working on. And when I looked at the survey, I didn't love the way the survey was constructed, but also like we already have a post-Labor Day start. I think it was explained to me we're getting feedback on if we change, not if we say that. All right, kind of. But it's so overwhelmingly against the idea, like what's the tenor of the calendar meetings, and I like the idea. I guess I hadn't looked forward either to Labor Day. That, I mean, that's happened in my tenure. It has to have happened. So, I think a good argument for going to a 2-year calendar. This may be I may be on board with the exception of, all right, maybe we do just do one for now.
And I think the committee felt it was important because we do believe it's important calendar to the board sooner than later because we know our teachers, based on the survey data, they want to be able to plan in advance. So we felt it was important we could figure out 25, 26. Sorry, I got to remember me. 25, 26 and bring that to you. And then we, the team had a conversation as we looked at 26, 27, when it begins, some other nuances in there of where different holidays fall. There's always nuances of when Veterans Day falls and different components that we're building into it. So we also thought it would still be enjoyable and good for the team to think about what could the 26-27 school year be and potentially bring that one later. It doesn't mean it has to come at the same time as the 25-26 calendar to you. So we do know that 25-26 needs to be so people, especially our staff, can begin to plan and think about.
So the plan is to bring a first draft in December.
A first draft to you in December based on what all the feedback and the way the calendar looks.
It says like a first read, like are we putting on 30-day review and maybe adopt? We haven't adopted a calendar that early in my tenure here, but that's great if we can.
I think that would be the hope, and it allows us a runway should there be more questions from you all or thoughts around it. But like this allowed the team to bring a proposal, continue to work on the 26-27 school year that might have some more nuances to it, and potentially do some options for that later on in the future.
Audrey, so do you think that, well, just confirm for me that whether it was post or pre Labor Day start, it's still the contracted 191 days?
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
That's one of the countings that you have to do, and you have to make sure
so you still got to have 191 days. We still don't have guaranteed snow days. We still, okay.
We would bring a proposal to you.
You know, like
We're only going to do 1 year, just one little.
1 year at December, but again, we may potentially look at 26, 27. I think what we, potential aha of the committee was we don't have to bring both years at the same time to you. When we know we can look at one, think about what works best within the calendar. And then also, again, the team was still game to look at possibly a two, but that could just come later so that we have more time to look at the dates and where things fall.
Mark, I just feel like we went off the rails with this. I thought that this was an easy thing when we first started this. And we knew what we wanted and we knew what they wanted.
Con always knew it was going to be tough.
I did.
Yeah.
As you know, the calendar is a discussion and bargaining. So if we only adopt a 1 year calendar, it is our intent to continue a calendar committee for however long we need a calendar committee when there is a calendar. So it's a weird, some of the parameters in the bargaining with our license union is, in years where we've already adopted a calendar, we wouldn't have a committee, wouldn't need a discussion.
That's been the conversation.
The plan is just keep
the calendar committee, and then you would always, regardless of where you are in the process, if you need the calendar committee to do the following, you would do it. If you don't need the calendar committee, you obviously communicate with HEA and
we're willing to just stay on the calendar for as long as we need to keep thinking about calendars.
Yes, and I think you would, as people change roles or whatnot, you would just get a new committee together like we did this time. I think each side brought different representatives to the table. It's been great. Opportunity to have discussions and dialogue around it.
Other questions regarding the calendar online? Monique, Jan, Patrick, Erica?
I would just like to appreciate the hours that Monique, Audria, Conahat, Roger, anybody I'm missing in this room, put into figuring this out. It is a good, inclusive process, and we had over 3,000 respondents to our survey, so thank you for your time.
Thank you. And with that, with our time, we will be giving the OSBA update, and we are recessing this board work session and doing a regular session downstairs at 6:55.
We begin, we would like to provide some important information about interpretation services. Please remember to speak clearly and directly into the microphones at a moderate pace. Please do not speak over one another so that interpreters can accurately convey your message. Thank you for your cooperation. We will go ahead and move to the agenda. Approval of the agenda. Would anyone like to make a motion?
You and me, huh? I move that the Board of Directors approve the agenda as printed.
Second.
It was moved by Director Watson and seconded by Director Thomas to approve the agenda as printed. Is there any discussion? Nope. Motion carries. Our next agenda item is to approve the consent agenda. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the consent agenda?
I move that the Board of Directors approve the consent agenda as printed.
Second.
It was moved by Director Thomas, seconded by Director Watson to approve the consent agenda as printed. Is there any discussion? Motion carries. Our next agenda item is audience time. So I will go ahead and be reading the audience participation statement. As representatives of the community, members of the Board of Directors believe that listening to public input is essential to making wise decisions. So we thank you for taking the time to be here. We consider this your time to speak and our time to listen. So individual board members will not reply directly to your immediate following your comment. If a board member hears something that requires additional attention, they may request it to be added to a future meeting agenda, or the superintendent or his designee may reach out directly to connect with you. We are fortunate in the Hillsboro School District to have a collaborative community that can discuss points of disagreement in a respectful manner. With this in mind, rudeness, ridicule, obscene or profane language, impatience, lack of respect for others, and personal attacks are not acceptable. Comments aimed at the state and federally protected classes are prohibited. Audience demonstrations supporting or opposing a speaker or idea are not permitted. We welcome frank discussion of district operations and programs, but in public session, the board does not hear comments regarding any individual district staff member. Public participation in board meetings is governed by policy DDBH, public comment of board meetings. There are structured channels for the board to review complaints involving staff members described in board policy KL, public complaints. As you start your remarks, please share your name and, if speaking, or for an organization, the name of your organization. We allow up to 3 minutes for each public comment. Please feel free to follow up by email to the board or the superintendent. And I wanted to remind you there will be a timer up on the screen for your 3 minutes. Beth?
Yes, the first speaker is Maddie Johnston. I don't know if I need to move this. Is that all right? Yes, closer to it. Good? Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Maddie Johnston. My personal information is on file with the district. I'm a third grade dual language teacher in the Hillsboro School District. On top of that, I'm also a proud member of HEA and a graduate myself of the Hillsboro School District. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of myself and my colleagues who are dedicated to providing a safe, effective, and inclusive learning environment for all students. I'd like to address a few of the points of our HEA bargaining platform, which includes class size and caseload, safe learning environments, compensation to recruit and retain quality educators, appropriate planning time, and time to manage IEPs and 504s. Firstly, let's talk about safe learning environments. This year alone, 10 weeks into the school year, I've had to conduct multiple room clears due to unsafe behavior from students. These range from physical violence toward me or another student, to verbal threats and screaming, and occasionally destruction of the room. When we conduct a room clear, I have to get my students safely out of the room into a vacant space where I can attempt to calm them down and continue teaching. Sometimes that means that we sit in the hall or in a vacant classroom. Other times there's nowhere to go but a neighboring classroom whose learning is now interrupted by 20 extra students coming in. These disruptions don't only impact the student in crisis, but also the entire classroom's ability to learn and to feel secure. Even more challenging is that in many cases, there isn't anyone available to support the student left behind in the classroom. With so many big behaviors occurring throughout the school, our limited support staff are often stretched across multiple incidents at once. This leaves both the student in crisis and the rest of the class without the immediate help and stability that they urgently need. On the topic of time to manage IEPs and 504s, our special education teachers, already carrying an enormous workload, are burning out. Last year, our school's special education teacher took a leave of absence due to the overwhelming demands placed on her. Our school lost an amazing educator due to an unsustainable and unmanageable workload. Additionally, some of our students who have had one-to-one support for years have suddenly lost that assistance. These children who have benefited from and continue to need consistent support are now expected to manage without it, as are their teachers. The sudden removal of this crucial help has been unsettling and unsafe for both the students and staff, highlighting a system that feels more reactive than proactive in meeting the needs of our students with IEPs and 504 plans. On compensation, despite working full-time as an educator, I also have an evening and weekend job to cover my basic living expenses. And I'm not alone in this struggle. Many of my colleagues are forced to make similar sacrifices, and several hold 2 or sometimes more jobs. Without appropriate compensation, our energy and focus are divided, which is unfair to both educators and students. As a result, myself and many of my friends and colleagues who are dedicated, passionate teachers have considered leaving the field altogether because we can no longer afford to stay. While we agree that we need to address school funding, these are urgent issues that can be addressed today. I urge you to support our bargaining platform, which addresses class size and caseload, safe learning environments, compensation, appropriate planning time, and time to manage IEPs and 504s. These things ensure that we as educators can stay focused on what brought us all here in the first place, our commitment to nurturing and educating the next generation. Thank you.
Next up is Billy Ray.
Okay. Good evening, distinguished members of the school board, fellow educators, and community members. My name is Billy Ray. My information is on file. I'm a special education teacher at R.E. Brown Middle School, and I'm here tonight for my students and on behalf of educators who want a fair and supportive contract that values our strategic vision. Our bargaining platform is centered around the 5 principles that Maddie mentioned: caseloads, class sizes, planning time, compensation, IEPs and 504s, and safety. Many of my colleagues have already shared this message, but my goal tonight is to share why it matters to our most vulnerable group of students. I appreciate the work that this community has done to foster progress towards our contract so far. I've been teaching for 5 years, yet my journey with HSD started when I was 5 years old and I walked through the doors of West Union Elementary into Miss Weber's kindergarten class. I would spend 13 years in Hillsboro and graduate from Glencoe. Like my students, I struggled with learning. Even the most entertaining lessons were difficult to understand and even more difficult for me to communicate. What kept me going was the educators who built a relationship with me, knew me, and kept my expectations high. Before this year, I was our school's SLC program specialist, a highly structured program that provided intensive social and self-management support to students with disabilities who often displayed unregulated and unsafe behavior. Our team was small, but highly skilled in helping our students achieve success in the general education classroom. We prioritized self-management strategies over academic skills, celebrated successes others do not understand, and shifted plans daily, sometimes even by minute, because that is what our students needed. I love the concept of neighborhood schools, and in theory, these specialized supports should foster success for students and be available at each school. Yet we are finding that is not the case, and it is difficult to protect the dignity of our students and the safety of our staff. This year, our Life Skills Program Specialist was given a split assignment between Lad Acres and our Life Skills Program. This was not equitable or fair to our most impacted student, nor sustainable for her. After months of back and forth and growing frustration, the final decision was to reassign the students to other special educators in the building. As a result, my team and I have spent countless hours writing safety plans, finishing IEPs, and communicating with families on our personal time. This is not equitable for our students nor our educators that choose the necessary work of special education. Our platform supporting caseload sizes and IEP management is not to reward for going above each and every day, but it is to promote sustainability. to provide more time to develop the same quality relationship that I had with my HSD teachers growing up that makes me proud to be here today. Please support our students by supporting our teachers. Thank you for your time.
Finally, we have Ben Noyes.
Hello, Hillsboro School District. My name is Benjamin Noyes, and I'm in my 10th year teaching at the Hillsboro High School. I'm also a proud graduate of Brookwood Elementary, Pointer Middle School, some of you taught me there, and Hillsboro High School as well. Every year I teach students who come back to me and ask about wanting to come back and teach in the district that gave them so much, as it did for me. Unfortunately, I don't know if I can tell them that working in this district right now is a great decision. I'm here to help change that by voicing my support for the HEA bargaining platform of improved class sizes, safer learning environments, fair compensation, appropriate planning time, and improved SPED support. My personal issue here is really basic. It's logistics. I live in a household of 4. My wife is in her 3rd year teaching in HSD. I have 2 kids that go to HSD. I want to live and prosper in the city that I grew up in, the city I love, the city I teach in. But I can't. It's not possible. Our contract has been vastly outpaced by inflation, particularly housing prices. I really want to buy a house, but a monthly payment for an average house in Hillsboro would be over 3/4 of my take-home monthly pay. My family affords gas and groceries cost more than the remainder of that income. Let's ignore silly things like utility and childcare and cell phone and internet connection, other bills, savings. I have no way of buying in Hillsboro. Here I am struggling, working paycheck to paycheck, living a life in continual debt while many of my peers are making less. And simply, it's embarrassing, like we've heard, that I have many colleagues who are forced to take 2nd and 3rd jobs or get roommates to be able to afford a 1-bedroom apartment. We need to honor our teachers. That means showing them respect for what they do and paying them what they deserve. So I ask you this, do you think HSD does best with teachers who are barely holding it together? I adore this town. I treasure all my experiences that each school that I went to and have taught at have given me. Please don't make it impossible for me to serve the community that that have given me so much. I believe paying teachers a fair living wage is what's best for HSD and what's best for our teachers and what's best for our students. Luckily, HEA has a plan to relieve this and many other issues, ensuring improved class sizes, safer learning environments, fair compensation, appropriate planning time, and improved SPED supports. Do what's right for Hillsboro and our hardworking teachers. Let's make our district one that welcomes back HSD grads to inspire the next generation. My name is Benjamin Noyes. I love Hillsboro, and I'm asking you to make the right choice.
Our next agenda item is legislative advocacy update with Beth.
All right. For those of you in the audience, I don't have enough of these for everyone, but there are 9 additional packets that I set back on the table there if anybody wants to grab one to look through. Otherwise, we'll be showing it here on the screen as well. So we, at least with our board colleagues, have talked about legislative advocacy a few different times. We had a subcommittee of board and myself that got together to come up with some legislative priority platform ideas for the board to adopt. We've gone over those, and you know, I've been feeling like, oh, we have some good individual pieces, but what I felt like we were really missing was something to tie it all together, and especially for folks who don't kind of live and breathe this information every day like I do, I realize that it can be helpful to have some kind of framing for the story that just helps you understand why are we in this position here in Oregon, what has led us here, and maybe some counterpoints to folks who may feel like, oh, well, when we passed the Student Success Act, you guys should be fine, right? And why that might not be the case. So the packet itself that I've put together, this is its kind of first debut, but it kind of gives a bit of that background that I was mentioning in the first few pages, and then the back pages are an appendix of the materials that we've already put out and are already available online on our Budget Matters webpage. So just as a way to kind of couch the conversation, for those of you who don't know much about school funding in Oregon, the current system was heavily shaped by Measures 5 and 50 that passed back in the 90s. And before that, when I too was a student of the Hillsboro School District back in the 80s, when we all had to pass our own operating levies. Every individual school district had to pass their own operating levies in the state of Oregon just to have their school year the following year. And, you know, for lots of communities, including, you know, when I was heading into my senior year, our levy failed. And so I think the state, realizing that that was maybe an unsustainable method, passed these measures that really transferred the majority of the onus for school funding onto the state. And then they also had a equalization formula that they passed, which kind of set up the structure that we operate under today, which is what establishes the state school fund and what's called an ADM, which is average daily membership for a single pupil. That's kind of the base amount of funding that you get. And then if you have other qualities about your situation where you might need some additional support, then that's factored into the funding model as well. But for the most part, that is the model that we started, 25 plus years ago, and that's the model that we have right now. In the packet and on your screen, you can kind of see how this story has played out over the last 22 years since the 03-05 biennium. So school funding is determined on a biennial basis in odd numbered years. And we're getting ready to head into the 25 session where they'll set the funding for the 25-27 biennium. But back in the day, back in the 03-05 biennium, K-12 school districts in the state of Oregon received 44.77% of the state's general fund budget. So almost half of Oregon's budget, their general fund budget, went to schools. And you can see that's the top kind of red line there. That was our kind of high water mark, and it's been declining every biennium since then. K-12 has received less and less of a share of the state's overall budget, to the point where in this last biennium, 23-25, the state had well over $33 billion in its general fund, and K-12 got a state school fund allocation of $10.2 billion statewide for the 2 years. And then if you add on top the money that we got through the student investment account, Measure 98, which is high school success, and then the new early literacy grant, which came out this January, then that took us up to about 11.7. Still, even when you add all those additional funding sources in to what K-12 received, we're still less than 35% of the state's budget allocation. So an 11 percentage point loss net in the last 21, 22 years. So, that's number gobbledygook, right? That doesn't necessarily translate to anything that is very tangible. But if you kind of start also pairing that to some of the other things that were happening with districts, then, the picture looks a little clearer. So if you really start digging into just HSD's experience, we're the 4th largest district in Oregon, and for us, back in, anybody around or had kids in schools back in 2002, 2003? Yeah, me too. That was at the end of that year is when we had to cut 16 school days. And because the state could not fulfill its obligation to schools to fund them at the level that they said they would, and we found out late in the year, and there was nowhere else to go. So in the 2 years of 02-03 and 03-04, Hillsboro School District had to cut a total of $41 million. So that was multiple days of school. That was well over 230 staff members. That was programs. It was bad. It was bad. Fortunately, the subsequent 4 plus a little bit years were a period of growth for the state and for our district, which was great. In those 4 years, between 04-05 and 07-08, we gained back about $33 million of that $41 million that we lost in the previous 2 years. So that was getting there. But then we had the housing bubble of 2008. And that kind of plunged us into another economic recession in the state that had, a long tail, definitely. And in this packet, there's a table that shows, maybe we can even scroll to that table, that shows over the years what our losses were. One more, maybe 2 more. There you go. So these tables show you on a kind of a year-by-year basis. Because what we do as a school district is our wonderful financial officer will look at all of our anticipated staffing levels, expenditures, what we anticipate the increases to our utilities being, our cost of doing business, all of that. It is all rolled up into what we consider to be what they call a current service level budget. That's to do exactly the same thing next year as we did this year, in tomorrow's dollars, basically. So every year we come up with what our current service level budget would be. And so these numbers here, where you see minuses or pluses, indicate years where the state school fund that we were delivered either fell short of what would have been a current service level budget for us or went above that. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of years where it went to the plus, although in these last few post-COVID years, we have had some relief money that helped us out, but the last of those dollars expired basically with the end of the previous school year, the 23-24 school year. So, and as we know, we talked about in the last session, I believe, of the board, that this year we have a $9.5 million shortfall to recapture. And so all of that taken into consideration, since 02-03 through today, we've had to make net reductions on the order of nearly $94 million, which is a lot. There's actually at the very back page of this packet, I have a graph that shows kind of the opportunity cost, the opportunities lost that we've had as a district. And if we were still at that 44.77% funding level, if we had been there this year, we would have received $111 million more dollars, just our district, than we did. So it's quite stark. And we're not saying, obviously, a return, to expect an 11 percentage point jump in one biennium is unrealistic. But even if we just regained a couple percentage points, it would put us in such a much better spot than where we find ourselves today. So I think just having that understanding of how did we get here? It's not because we don't know how to manage our money, how to run school. It really is because the model has been based on, again, what would it take everybody to do next year? Exactly what you did this year. And that's not necessarily an investment mindset. You think with education, you want to be looking for acceleration, not just how can we tread water. But then also when you compound that with the fact that there have been many years of losses, and that's not just Hillsboro School District, that is, many of the 197 districts across the state have had the exact same experience. So when you're building current service level on something where you just went through massive cuts, and they've not only been sustained, but cumulative, then you really start to understand why it's just continually just not enough, because we've never been able to fully recover and build from those points of reduction. So I share all this, again, just in hopes that it kind of starts making more sense as kind of a full through line of kind of where it started, what happened, how we got here, and then gives us some concrete things to point to in terms of advocacy, what we're looking at. Everything that's in this packet relates directly to Hillsboro School District, and I guess just as a caveat, you might, as we get closer to the legislative session, see us narrowing in our priority platform and kind of coalescing with some other districts around different numbers. And that's because it can be more effective for us with our elected officials if they're hearing a consistent dollar amount, and the fact that 197 districts, we all require a different amount of money to break even or meet our current service level. So if we can kind of take some knowledge from our collective, especially either regionally or by like-sized districts, things like that, if we can coalesce around specific numbers, like, okay, we're going to go out collectively and ask for X amount. I can't tell you exactly what that's going to land at. Maybe it's 12 billion. Right now, the governor's talking about 11.3. Maybe we're going to all coalesce around 12 billion, perhaps. We may all also coalesce around we want to raise the sped cap from 11% to 14%, which more closely matches people's experience rate around the state. So being able to get fully funded for the experience we're actually having is another way that helps us, have robust programming and also the number of staff that we need to run things effectively. So I know that our board had the opportunity to look through this a few days earlier, and if there are questions or additional pieces of information that would be helpful, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions for Beth? Anybody online?
Thanks for doing all of this and for corralling us and getting the work done. We did have a OSBA Oregon School Boards Convention this past weekend and got a chance to meet with districts in our region, and yeah, it sounds like there's belief that we'll be more effective coalesce around a few ideas. I think all of the work that your team and the subcommittee did has been great, and I hate the idea that maybe we have to put some of those concepts aside. And I don't think, so one of my struggles will be figuring out how to continue to advocate for those things, even though we want to coalesce around some themes, so that I guess I do believe we'll be more effective if we're all sort of saying the same thing, or at least close to the same thing. So, yeah, it'll be a challenge, because I think all of the work that we've done to put this together makes sense, especially we're taking our district perspective, and we've always come up with our legislative agenda, and it is, I think a substantial ask for us to set some aside is too strong a word, but also focus on at least the two primary focuses that we had, I think, are the same primary focuses that every district in our region has. And just like I've said it before, say it again, under our current system, right, we don't fund our schools directly in Hillsboro like we used to. It's not a thing we do. We all pay our property taxes into the state, and the state decides how to distribute it back. Every taxpayer in Washington County, every single one, is a net exporter of education dollars. We pay more into the state school fund and with our property taxes than we receive back for our students. So that's the reality of living in Washington County. We don't have a levy like some of our neighbors do. We have had the ability to pass a bond, which some of our neighbors have not been able to do, and many districts in the state have not. So, I like being in this middle spot, but also we're not going to change the Measure 5, Measure 50 system in one legislative session, but planting the seeds that we are not getting the outcomes we expect from our current system, and maybe we should look at changing the system, is a seed that we can plant now, and maybe it will grow and we'll get some systemic changes. I do appreciate that the governor, and hopefully legislative fiscal office is taking a hard look at what current service level is. As somebody who has been saying for 7 or so years that current service level is not calculated correctly, I appreciate we're taking a look at maybe calculating it correctly, but I also still, you've heard me say it before, I also think making the bare minimum of what we're doing right now the target is not the target we should be looking for in a growing economy. When every department's cutting, I get it. Figuring out how to protect what we're doing now makes sense. But when the economy is growing and the percentage of the budget is shrinking, it just doesn't make sense in how we invest in our students. So I don't want to lose that message, but we are down to weeks before session begins and honing our advocacy in to ensure that the next biennium is funded at the highest level we can get from the legislature is sort of the priority, I suppose.
Beth, I'm going to blame it on Mark. He knew it. I had my notes from the OSBA meeting, and you're spot on that this is not about just us. We cannot go and legislate or advocate and lobby by ourselves. So we were in a room with all the people from Washington County, all the districts, and we were coalescing on what would be our focus. And everybody's focus is slightly different, but in order for us to have a semi-unified front, where we go in front of over 100 new legislators who have no clue about us and what we do and about you and what you do, we are coming together, our CFOs, our communication specialists from the districts that we have in Washington County are going to be coming together. What you have done already is the groundwork of what we're looking to do and to pull it together so that when we go to the legislature in January, we can talk not just as Hillsboro, but as Washington County, as a region, a strong region, and one that cannot be ignored and or underfunded any further. I did not have the privilege to live with you or in this beautiful state when you all made that grand decision. I'm sure at the time it felt like the right thing to do, but now that I'm here, I can tell you I've never seen anything like this in my life. And it's disappointing to see that it continues. Thank God we now have a governor who is talking about it, at least acknowledging that CSL is not going to get what we want. I personally, in my life, I don't try to live up to being mediocre. And that's what the CSL is. It's how can we be mediocre? I know you don't teach that to the kids. I know you don't. Because I just graduated one. I just walked one across the stage. I've talked to you. You don't teach to mediocrity. But we're funding mediocrity. I don't get it. So anyway, I apologize for that. But this is what we need. Because we're going to be getting together with the other districts. We're going to be putting our heads together. The superintendents are already going in so that we can be the most effective that we can be. When we go to Salem, I can't wait to start walking the halls. Now, maybe they won't figure out where I'm from or not, but I guarantee you when they leave, or when I leave, they will never forget us.
Ask the math person. You don't have to answer this today. Just thinking about Beaverton, third largest district, we're fourth, Tigard, Sherwood. Be curious to know how many students there are in Washington County. And I'm trying to do quick math and I wasn't getting there in time before Nancy got done speaking. But it's a substantial portion of the whole state's population that's here, I think. So speaking as a region collectively, I think we'll have power, is what I'm getting at. It's like, we're talking about representing X percentage of students in the whole state.
There's like 500,000 students in the state, right?
Yeah.
And I would say we have at least a fifth in Washington County.
Yeah.
With Beaverton 44,
right.
we're at 18, then 17 in Tiger,
Yeah,
the small ones, I would say we
Tiger,
represent
Sherwood,
at least 100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the feeling in the room when we were in the Northwest Regional Education Service District along with us, all the districts. That was the feeling in the room, that if we come to some degree and come together and approach them and help them understand it. If you only fund us at 11.3, this is great, but this is what's going to happen in Tualatin Tiger. This is what's going to happen in Beaverton. This is what's going to happen to us. So we want to give them that information so that they can understand the impact of each one of us. It's not just about us. We are no longer fighting this battle by ourselves. We cannot do it.
Thank you, Beth. Anyone online? Erica? I can't see if their hands are up. All right. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Beth gets a round of applause. How about that?
She's a wealth of knowledge. Our next agenda item is financial report with our district financial officer, Michelle.
Hello, thank you. First of all, huge gratitude to our historian and sense maker in terms of what's happening at the state level, and bringing those documents forward is something that we can use very creatively, and getting in front of people and having that conversation. Our state funding really is the heart of the issue, so I'm just very thankful. Thank you, Beth. Yeah, the financial report was in your packet. I do want to say that there is our focus for this month is just sharing information about kind of a restart on the academic return on investment work when we're looking at prioritizing different areas of our budget. We're moving through the integrated guidance process for the student investment account. And so we've got a fairly sizable team that's involved with that work. So from my perspective, that's pretty amazing. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Financial related, in our last bargaining session with the license team, there seemed to be some misunderstanding about our current situation, the $9.5 million gap, and you were going to find time to discuss that with their chief representative. Did that happen? Was it a good conversation?
That did happen.
Okay.
There was an information request. I've shared that. I'm hoping that the understanding has improved for the whole team. I know that, you know, from being in the room, that there's lengthy informational sessions about our financial position and the proposals as they move back and forth. So I do hope that there is a better understanding of our current position.
Yeah, this year.
This year.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
We have 2 action items this evening. Our first is to appoint the budget committee members. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I move that the board of directors appoint the slate of candidates identified during the work session to the vacant positions on the budget committee as follows. Gabby Villegas to position 3, which expires June 30th, 2027. Christine Adams Wamberg to position 4, which expires on June 30th, 2027.
Second.
It has been moved by Director Watson and second by Director Lopez. Of directors appoint the slate of candidates identified during the work session to the vacant positions on the budget committee as follows. Appoint Gabby Villegas to position 3, which expires on June 30th, 2027. Appoint Christine Adams Wamberg to position 4, which expires on June 30th, 2027. Is there any further discussion?
Just want to say a sincere thanks to Christine, who is, many of you know her as our Washington County Auditor. And she's a self-identified numbers geek, and she loves it. The fact that you have someone like her and of her brain power who wishes to join us, volunteer in this endeavor and do it again, we are thrilled to have her. At the same time, we are also thrilled to have Gabby, who is going to bring a new set of skills and some new leadership, and we are thrilled to have her as well. So thanks to both. And just to let everybody know, we have one more position open if you would like to join us. If someone else not in the room, you all are busy. But for those of you online who would like to join us, we do have another position open, I believe, on the committee. So we are always looking for volunteers to join us. in that heavy lift. Thank you.
Thank you. Rose, can we get a roll call?
Sheehan Kim,
Aye.
Erica Lopez,
Aye.
Patrick McGuire,
Aye.
Nancy Thomas,
Aye.
Monique Ward,
Aye.
Mark Watson,
Aye.
Yvette Pantoja.
Aye. Motion carries. Because there are several motions on the table, I believe how we have done it in the past is to make a motion and then we can discuss. Right? Yeah, but
Do each one or do them all?
do all of them.
Last year, we made a motion for each one of them separately,
And then
yeah.
discuss separately? Okay.
Yeah, there wasn't discussion on every one of them separately, but this one might be a little different, so. Yeah, well, what we did last year is we just started with the first motion and then went from there.
Sounds like a plan. I move that the Board of Directors cast its vote for Christy Kotke for the OSB Board of Directors, position number 15.
Second.
It has been moved by Director Thomas and second by Director Watson that the Board of Directors cast its vote for Christy Kotke for the OSBA Board of Directors, position 15. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to say it's a pleasure to work with Christy. I know she's at another place in a different board, but it's been a pleasure working with her, and we did a lot of work this weekend and looking forward to continue to work with Christy.
Second that. I appreciate Christy's dedication. She was a Forest Grove City Councilor. Now she's serving on their school board and also serving on the OSBA board. That is a lot of extra volunteer time for one person, and I appreciate her doing that and the skill with which she does it.
Great. Thank you. Rose, can we get a roll call, please?
Sheehan Kim,
Aye.
Erica Lopez,
Aye.
Patrick McGuire,
Aye.
Nancy Thomas,
Aye.
Monique Ward,
Abstain.
Mark Watson,
Aye.
Yvette Pantoja.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
I move that the Board of Directors cast its vote for Nancy Thomas for the OSBA Board of Directors, position 20.
Second.
It was moved by Director Watson and seconded by Director Lopez.
Sure.
That the Board of Directors cast its vote for Nancy Thomas for the OSBA Board of Directors, position 20. Is there any further discussion?
I would also like to thank Nancy for the extra hours it takes to serve on this committee or on this board. It also makes you a representative of the Legislative Policy Committee, which means that you had to stay well into the evening hours on Saturday after everybody else all regular board members had gone home. So it is not an inconsequential amount of time that you dedicate to this, and I want to thank you for doing that.
I also want to say thank you, Nancy, for your time on the OSBA board, especially as we had the conference this weekend. We can see how much extra time it takes as part of the board to help running the conference. And I just appreciate your time and your service.
Before we close out this discussion, I just want to say to those of you in the audience and online that what I am doing is simply continuing the journey that has been paved by my predecessors, by Erica Lopez, who is very famous in OSBA, teeny tiny footsteps, but large ones to fill, and former chair Mark as well. And so I just want you to know that it is a labor of love, and we're not the only ones, but if you could have seen that conference this weekend, you would understand. I promise to give you more details in my report.
Thank you, Nancy, for all of your work. Could we get a roll call, please?
I'm sorry, just to clarify, did you say Erica Lopez seconded that motion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sheehan Kim,
Aye.
Erica Lopez,
Aye.
Patrick McGuire,
Aye.
Nancy Thomas,
Aye.
Monique Ward,
Abstain.
Mark Watson,
Aye.
Yvette Pantoja.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
I move that the Board of Directors approve Resolution 1 to amend the OSBA dues schedule.
I second.
It has been moved by Director Watson, seconded by Director Thomas, that the Board of Directors approve Resolution 1 to amend the OSBA dues schedule. Is there any further discussion?
Just a reminder to our audience and to our present audience and the ones online that for whatever reason, this organization, OSBA, has not increased its dues in 25 years. I was blown away. So, given the fact that we've been through quite a bit of upheaval this year, and I think that we are on the right track with new leadership, we have buttoned down the hatches on finances as well, but it is incumbent that the organization, especially given what it does, we provide just an incredible amount of services to all of the districts, especially our rural and smaller districts who can't afford to have a Michelle, who can't afford to have a Francesca, who can't afford to have a Beth Fraser. So their presence is really, really, really important. So the increase of these dues is very important. We've streamlined it. Smaller schools have a smaller increase. Larger schools can absorb, have a larger increase, and we've done it as equitably as we can. So highly in support of this.
Yeah, I support the increase as well. It's not insubstantial or unsubstantial, but yes, it's going to be, but it's worth it. Without OSBA, the cost it would be for us to continue to make sure all of our policies are legally compliant would be an incredible burden. So it's simply worth it for them, that alone almost. But yes, all of the other services they provide to all the districts is worth it.
Any other questions or comments from our online directors? No? Monique?
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you to Beth and Michelle for answering and clarifying questions for me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Rose, can we get a roll call, please?
Sheehan Kim.
Aye.
Erica Lopez.
Aye.
Patrick McGuire.
Aye.
Nancy Thomas.
Aye.
Monique Ward.
Abstain.
Mark Watson.
Aye.
Yvette Pantoja.
Aye. Motion carried.
I move that the Board of Directors approve Resolution 2 to create the Oregon School Board Members Pride Caucus and designate a seat on the OSBA Board of Directors and Legislative Policy Committee.
Second.
It has been moved by Director Watson and seconded by Director Thomas that the Board of Directors approve Resolution 2 to create the Oregon School Board Members Pride Caucus and designate a seat on the OSBA Board of Directors and Legislative Policy Committee. Is there any further discussion?
I'd like to provide some context behind this. There are now going to be 3 caucuses that are a member of OSBA board. The first one was, believe it or not, the
Board Member of Color Caucus.
Yeah, Board Member of Color Caucus. Let's be clear, I've never been called that in my life, but that's what it is. That was done back in 2018. It was highly controversial, but it passed. The second group that just became a caucus was the Rural School District Caucus. They have now met, and they met the requirements. There is a list of requirements that you have to complete in order to become a caucus. It takes about a year to do that. What happened was, in this particular Pride Caucus, unfortunately, we had members who decided that maybe we should pause. Maybe we should think about whether we want to continue to have these types of caucuses. We also discussed how much of a financial burden it would be on the organization to take on a new caucus. The vote was not split, but it overwhelmingly passed, and that's why it's coming to us as a vote at this point. I will say that we have had the conversation, and it is on the agenda for the new president of OSBA for us to discuss exactly what the caucuses do and if we can determine if there's a better solution than just the caucus format. There are some people who think that there is. However, I would just say to the public and to you all here that sometimes it is very easy to forget that sometimes it's nice to have a safe space to be with people who look like you. You take it for granted when it's you. And here I am in your community, and I have trouble convincing people that you even voted for me to be on the board. It's true. I tell them I'm on the board, and they're going, no, you're not. And I'm going, oh, I guess you didn't vote for me. All I'm saying is this, is that it's really important that we give people a chance to connect, that they have a safe space to be in connection. And if we can find a better way than the caucus forum, then so be it, we will do it. But for the moment, there is a requisite, there is compliance, and that group has met all of those. Thus, they should be a group, they should become a caucus, and then let's figure it out if we want to continue this. Maybe we put a pause on it, I don't know. But OSBA will work that out. And I felt it important to give you the context behind that organization.
Yeah, you're watching a lot of internal housekeeping. So Oregon School Board Association does a lot for us, and in return, we have housekeeping measures we have to do, so here we are. I intend to support this.
Any other comments? No. Rose, can we get a roll call, please?
Sheehan Kim.
Aye.
Erica Lopez.
Aye.
Patrick McGuire.
Aye.
Nancy Thomas.
Aye.
Monique Ward.
Opposed.
Mark Watson.
Aye.
Yvette Pantoja.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Oh, yes, I can. I move that the Board of Directors approve Resolution 3, which is to adopt the proposed amendments to the OSBA bylaw.
Second.
It has been moved by Director Thomas, seconded by Director Watson, that the Board of Directors approve Resolution 3 to adopt the proposed amendments to the OSBA bylaws. Is there any further discussion?
Just a quick note, we did the whole review. We had a smaller committee, they reviewed the bylaws, we cleaned them up, there was some old language, there was some non-clarifying language, and we cleaned all of that up, so that's what that is. There were no substantive changes.
Any other comments or questions? No. Rose, could we get a roll call, please?
Sheehan Kim.
Aye.
Erica Lopez.
Aye.
Patrick McGuire.
Aye.
Nancy Thomas.
Aye.
Monique Ward.
Opposed.
Mark Watson.
Aye.
Yvette Pantoja.
Aye. Motion carries. That concludes our agenda items and brings us to the HCU HEA report. You guys can decide who goes first.
Good evening, Chair Pantoja, Superintendent Ryman, members of the school board and administrative team, and licensed colleagues and classified colleagues. My name is Kira Hartzell. I'm proud to be here at the podium tonight in my role as collective bargaining officer for Hillsboro Classified United. As a technology support specialist for HSD, I have developed a deep love for data. As you can imagine, it drives a lot of the work that we do in our department. Numbers and statistics provide helpful, logical data points you can use to inform your decisions, right? It just makes sense. It was this thirst for data that drove our team to begin our journey into bargaining last January with a comprehensive survey to our classified staff. This survey was designed to illuminate classified priorities. With a bargaining unit of over 1,330 staff and more than 40 extremely diverse job categories, it can sometimes be difficult to align our priorities. Yet our responses this bargaining season were unified and resoundingly clear. Classified staff are struggling to make ends meet with their current wages, and they are deeply concerned about safety in the workplace. Last month, our team brought a comprehensive safety proposal to the bargaining table. This proposal is designed to address many of the concerns our staff have been raising over the past 3 years in classified listening sessions, sped listening sessions, and labor management meetings. It is designed to address the troubling patterns we are finding in our data, that classified staff are being injured on the job at an alarming rate. In fact, our data over the past 2 years shows that classified staff are filing workers' compensation claims at 3 times the rate of their licensed colleagues and 50 times the rate of their administrative colleagues, 50. More than half of our special education assistants report being injured on the job during the past year, with many acknowledging that such injuries are a common or recurring experience. The data itself is staggering. And yet what I've learned in my work as a union rep is that data by itself only paints a part of the picture. For example, when I tell you that more than 10% of SEAs had filed workers' compensation claims between September and May of last school year, it might be easy to cast that aside as a data point or a statistic, but when you are on the ground representing the educators who are putting their bodies on the line to do this work, and listening to the stories that they tell you, you know that each number represents your coworker, a caring, passionate human being who shows up each day that they can with the love and commitment for the kids that they support. And so we cannot look at the data without understanding the bigger story that our classified staff are telling us, and they are demanding solutions. At last month's board meeting, we were encouraged to hear some progress being made in the form of new monthly training being offered to our SEAs. We look forward to seeing how this new initiative will help staff respond to challenging student behavior while prioritizing safety. We hope these trainings are clearly communicated and widely accessible to the staff who need them, and that this marks the beginning of a collaborative and holistic response to ongoing concerns about worker safety. We also look forward to more progress as we continue our work at the bargaining table. Thank you for your time this evening.
Good evening, Chair Pantoja, Vice Chair Watson, fellow board members, Superintendent Ryman, and administrative leaders. My name is Mary Kay Babcock. My pronouns are she, her, ea. I'm a proud music educator of 28 years, and I'm honored to be your HEA president. First, I want to thank Maddie Johnston, Ben Noyes, and Billy Ray for their thoughtful contributions that they brought here tonight. And as HSD alumni, their commitment that they give back to their community is not only inspiring, it's deeply appreciated. Thank you for amplifying our members' voices tonight. I also want to acknowledge our members, our students, parents, and community members joining us here tonight in person and online. We are here together tonight because we believe in a shared goal. We are stronger together. Last month, we called on the school board and the district to collaborate with us to bridge the budget gap without jeopardizing the future of our students and/or our educators. Our members have been clear about the priorities that must be addressed to stabilize our schools and make them stronger. Class size and caseload that support student success, a safe learning environment for staff and students, compensation that helps recruit and retain educators, appropriate planning time to meet all of our students' needs, and time to manage IEPs and 504s to ensure fully supported students. let's be clear. These aren't new issues. They are longstanding needs our members have voiced over the past 2 years. Tonight, you've heard directly from educators struggling to make ends meet, educators advocating for our students with special needs, and educators with years of service in our district who cannot afford a home in their own community. These voices represent critical needs that must be addressed now. HEA loves and cares for our community, and we want the very best for our members, our students, and their families. One job should be enough, and work shouldn't hurt. We agree that we need more funding, and we also know that this is a today problem. Let me say this now. Our students and our educators cannot wait. Our bargaining platform provides the solution to all of these needs. We urge you to meet us at the bargaining table to address these priorities without delay. The time to address these issues isn't someday or a future legislative session day. The time is now. By acting immediately, we can create the safe, supportive, and effective learning environment our entire school community deserves. We're asking you to prioritize these needs today to ensure that our students, our educators, our communities see, they feel, they live and recognize real progress when we work together and agree that these are solutions to achieve schools where our educators and our students thrive. Thank you.
This brings us to discussion time. We will start off with the OSBA conference report. No, oh no. Yeah.
Oh. It was not in the published agenda, right?
It was, and we approved the agenda as printed. Yes, so we're good.
Who wants to start it? Who had the opportunity to attend?
Well, how about if we let Cal start? He was with us. He said he didn't want to go after me, so.
Testing. Oh, yes. Want to mention, Nancy's a great public speaker, probably one of the best I have heard. I did not want to have the misfortune of having to follow her brilliance. So I think my main takeaway from the OSBA conference is the power of humanizing or relating to the people around you, of having a strong connection with others. I understand that icebreakers can be pretty painful at times. Parties with coworkers can be very inconvenient, and students can certainly be a handful at times. But I think that no one will ever wish that they knew less of who you are as a person. They will only wish that they knew you better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Erica, me, or Nancy?
Erica, do you want to
Erica,
go?
we nominate you.
Oh, for me to go first and talk about OSBA? I just wanted to say it was great to see people that I hadn't seen in a while since I haven't been on OSBA, but also seeing the board members that have been there for many years and seeing that they're still really passionate about learning. And that's something that is really important for us, that we demonstrate by our actions that we're also continuously learning and exploring what other opportunities or options or things that we might want to bring back to our district. And having a learning community with other board members is really important, as well as having just a community of peers. So it was really great to hear the keynote speakers as well. They always have such inspiring messages, but also hearing from one another. There's sessions where other board members are able to present and we get to hear from their stories of success. And that's always really inspiring to me as well. And seeing that more and more every year as I go, there's more districts that have student reps is also really inspiring. I hope that that trend continues and that we have more and more of our student reps. And I'll be just advocating for the programming of our conference to also focus on creating spaces for our students reps to get together.
Thank you, Erica.
I can go next. Yes, it's great to hang out with board members from all the way around the state. You may disagree on a few very small or I say we agree on way more than we disagree, put it that way. And it's great to put aside any of the disagreements we have and just spend the weekend focusing on learning how to be better board members and figuring out the best ways to advocate for kids. You go to different sessions and they're almost always presided over by, or a panel by different school districts. And I had the benefit of sitting on a panel with Nancy, Erica, Rose, and Travis, and discussing sort of some of the systemic structures and things we do here to sort of try to keep order and provide continuity on our board. And it was great to be able to be, it was a privilege to be part of that session with these folks. Nancy was a keynote speaker on Thursday, and Rose conducted a session. So it makes me proud to be in a district where we continuously have leaders in our district asked to represent and share the things that we do here that make us unique. So I love that. One of the focuses I had, as speaking of caucuses, is the board member of color caucus is something you can self-identify as a person of color or an advocate and join that caucus. The new LGBTQ caucus is something you can self-identify and or an ally and become a member of that caucus. The rural board member caucus, the third one, you individually choose whether or not you want to be part of that caucus, but there is a district-wide step that you have to do before so I tried to join the rural board member caucus. And as someone in the fourth largest school district in the state, they said there's more to it than that. But as part of my discussions, we showed, so I don't think it's any secret to anybody that, in our district, what's that? That's Groner. If that's not rural, I don't know what is. Next one, right? So Farmington View, if that's not rural, I don't know what is. What else did I put in there? West Union, maybe, right? Alphality, right? So I mean, I think the caucus is meant to recognize that rural schools and rural school districts have different challenges than some of the others. Can you go to that sort of last one, the picture of the whole state? If you can't, that's fine. So that you automatically qualify for inclusion. Your district automatically qualifies based on how many students you have or the population density, and even both North Plains schools have less population density than Banks, which automatically qualifies. I don't know if we would have to apply as a district for the exemption, and then board members could individually decide whether or not they want to join the caucus. I would like to join the caucus, but I don't want to create extra work for my colleagues. So it's just something I'm bringing up that I think we need to be concerned about the problems that rural schools have that maybe urban schools don't. And even if I'm not allowed to join that caucus, at least I can go to some of their sessions when we all attend a conference together and try to do that. So I'm not saying let's look into it today, but eventually I may come to this board and ask us if we want to work together as a district to try to apply to join the rural board member caucus. I guess live with it if we get rejected, but I'm not sure it's worth the work, but it's a topic. As someone who spent 24 years living in the Hillsboro School District, and only the last, Thanksgiving is a year that I moved into my house. So, who's only been in the city of Hillsboro for a year, it's important to me to continuously remember that HSD is much bigger than the city of Hillsboro. And whenever somebody conflates the idea that Hillsboro is HSD, I want to make sure that we're there to remind them that that's not the case. HSD is much bigger than the city of Hillsboro, and this is a good way to do that for me. So that's my OSB report.
Thank you, Mark.
Mark and I drove down, we picked up Cal on Friday, and we were just thrilled to have him there. That's one of the things when you talk about student members on the board, people look to Hillsboro because they know we've done it. It wasn't us, it was actually Mark and Erica. That's how long they've been on the board, and it was their idea, and it is growing, and it's really awesome to see the people in the room then gravitate to our students. And so, Cal, thank you so very much for trusting us and for being with us. We really appreciate you being here. It was my honor to give a keynote to the administrative professionals. I had to laugh and make them laugh and help them understand and encourage them to embrace the chief cat herder responsibilities that they have. I spoke at length about the chief cat herder that we have. Her name is Rose. And how she just does that in a way that is so impactful. It is not easy to deal with individuals like ourselves who have day jobs, and we're mothers and sisters. We're all of those things, and we're executives, and we are still trying to do this work. And I always make the ploy at my day job, I have to go to my volunteer job that takes more time than my day job. And that's what this is. So thank you again for even wanting me to be a part of it, and I just had a blast. So had a lot of fun with that. You heard what we talked about in the regional roundtable. It was a very, very strong conversation, robust. I use that word. We'll call it robust, because we really want to make a difference. We really want to get the legislators to understand what we really need. So we talked about that before. I wanted to give kudos to Francesca, because one of the sessions that I was in was about implementing the district equity committee. Now, regardless of how you feel about diversity, equity, or inclusion, doesn't matter because the law says that we have to have an equity committee. So it was very interesting to be in the area because apparently what they did was a phased-in implementation. So districts with more than 2,000 students had to have theirs in place by last year. Now we have smaller districts who have no clue what they're going to do. And they are beside themselves trying to figure out how they're going to sell what they think might be considered to be woke in their area. So I want to share with you what I told them. Please don't think that diversity means that you go and find a Latino woman or a Latino man. Please don't think that diversity is that you go find a Black person or that's not what diversity is. Find the diversity in your community. That's what diversity is. And I urge them to look at that, even though it just so happens that everybody out in the audience doesn't look like me. But you are not a monolith, you're not the same, and you have different thoughts. That's the diversity. So I urge them to look for the true, the authentic diversity in their community and highlight that. You don't have to go import Black people. We're good. I mean, I'm here, don't get me wrong. This is the most beautiful state I have ever lived in. The touch and the blessing of the Native American people on this land is absolutely staggering. You all can grow anything. Marionberries, come on, who does that? First time I saw hops, I thought I was like, what is that? And then I kid you not, this is the first time I ever saw a Brussels sprout in its natural form. I thought that there were sleigh bells in the grocery store. I didn't get it. My point is this. I urge them just like I urge you. So look at diversity very differently. The media would have you think it really is about the color of my skin. It is not. I am not a DEI hire, neither am I a DEI vote. I am a human being with the same red blood cells as you. Maybe a few more white blood cells, believe it or not. And I have a little bit more melanin in my skin. That's all. But I have a kiddo who made it through. I have a kiddo who graduated. I have a kiddo who was on the phone all night long, election night, with his best friends all across the country, worried about where this country is going. So when we talk about diversity, don't buy into the hype. Find it where you are. I urge you to do that, just like I did them. It was a pleasure to be there. There were 575 school board members in attendance, and that was actually a low number. There were a number of people who were kind of scared to come to Portland because of the election. Didn't get that, but that's okay. We had major security there. Did you notice that? Yeah, we had major security there. And then there were over 80 administrative professionals that participated, and we had almost 40 in our session on Thursday morning for breakfast. So that is my report. I will put it in writing and give it so we can have that. But thank you for trusting me. Thank you for trusting Cal, and thank you, Mother, for trusting us.
Thank you, Nancy. We're going to do student representative time. Abe, do you want to start us off?
It's incredible to see an audience again and to hear so many voices, and I'm glad that I'm able to be a part of all this. I'm glad that I'm able to, again, in the words of Nancy, find diversity, and we all have different ideas in the community, in the audience, on the board. It is really, really special to be able to be a part of this and be able to spend my time doing something like this rather than just wasting my time on a couch. So thank you guys.
Yeah, I just want to take my time to be able to say thank you all for being here. Like, as a student, it is so inspiring to see so many passionate people who actually care about like student education and kids education. It's really, really cool. I would just like to share my experience like that I had in middle school. I went to a different district, and we had a lot of issues with staffing and with like teachers being able to like hold their positions in our middle school. And I think it's very impactful, like student and teacher relationships. And as a student in a district who couldn't like keep their teachers, it was definitely very frustrating and difficult just as a student. So I see like where all of this kind of ties together, and I'm very glad that this is like in conversation.
All right. I'd like to say that I appreciated hearing from audience members today. It's great to hear from you all. And I'd like to give a shout out to our ASL interpreters on call tonight, Melina and Jenny, if I pronounced your names correctly. I'd like to thank you for all the work you do. It's great work. And lastly, I'd like to say that I am also glad I am not on a couch as well with my brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Ryan.
First, I want to thank folks who came and made comment today. I think 2/3 of commenters are people that I got to know when they were students in elementary and middle school, and I just wanted to say that I'm really proud of you, and I emotionally connected with what you were sharing because of that personal connection that I have with you, so thank you. Your heart and your passion for kids in Hillsboro come through in your comments tonight, so thank you for that. More than just Hillsboro, sorry, Mark. Hillsboro and surrounding areas that are HSD attendants. I wanted to thank Beth Grazer for setting up a series of outreach opportunities and opportunities for me and board members and staff to connect with the community these last couple of months. This fall, we hosted events for PTO, PTA, and PAC parents who are involved at the school level and district level. We hosted a faith luncheon and we hosted several coffee chats in English and in Spanish. And one of my goals as a superintendent is to serve this community well by engaging with folks outside of schools in the broader community, and I felt like we met that goal, Beth, so thank you. And thanks for staff and board members who supported those opportunities as well. Another of my goals this year is to be a side-by-side advocate for HSD and for schools in Oregon alongside our board members and our staff. And I wanted to thank Beth and Mark and Erica and Yvette for the work that they did to create our legislative advocacy stance that was shared tonight. A lot of work went into that. And Beth, you are the historian of that, and much appreciated. Also, it was evident at the OSBA conference this weekend that we do lead at the state level and are looked at as exemplar leaders in our by other school districts and by legislators. Erica and Nancy and Mark and Rose, you all are leaders at the state level. I was honored to sit with Rose and see that she's a leader among administrative professionals in the state. And there are concrete examples of that, like the binder that Rose uses to onboard new school board members and student reps is something that's borrowed and replicated by districts across the state. So folks come up and ask Rose for advice on how to run school districts, and I appreciate that. It's great to see you in that context. I didn't know what to expect going to OSBA in Portland with school board leaders from every corner of the state of Oregon in a week that was tense politically. But what I did see was that there are good folks with different lived experiences and different political leanings who are all going to commit to running schools in this state, and that would really heartened me. And so I think at this time we need calm leadership, and I felt that at the conference this weekend, and I was honored to be there with you all. So thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll go to our board. Let's go online. Director Lopez.
Hey everyone, thanks again for the opportunity to speak tonight. I just wanted to say again that it was great to be in that panel discussion with my fellow board members and with Travis and Rose. I also want to just give another shout out to Rose as well, because it's not just like other districts, even other agencies ask about our processes, and I'm always sharing Rose as a contact to share what our processes are, and she's always super responsive, and it's just great that even other government agencies look to our district for operations, examples of operations. I also just wanted to share that I was really glad that our region met together and talk about our legislative efforts and really made a concerted effort to pull together all of our resources. And instead of us going off and doing advocacy one district, doing the best that we can within our district and within our board members, we want to pull that collective group of our region in Washington County together. And that was really reassuring and reaffirming that we are all aligned on those priorities about funding and doing whatever we can to do that advocacy. And I'm really looking forward to our plan that we have in the fall and how we get together to do that work. So that was just really encouraging, I would say, to see that and to hear other districts just in alignment and in support of legislative advocacy. And also pulling all of our resources together and figuring out how to best create a communication plan and ensure that we're all in step and aligned together. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Ward.
Can you come back to me, please?
Director McGuire.
So I want to thank everyone for the informative presentations today, and wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. And it's such a joy to be getting into the holiday season, and soon we'll be getting to attend winter concerts in our schools and other holiday celebrations and festivities. So we had a good meeting today, very productive, and I want to thank everyone and wish you the best for the month ahead. Take care.
Thank you. Director Kim.
No comment from me tonight. Thanks.
Director Thomas. Director Ward.
Yes, I want to say thank you for everyone for the audience comments this evening and for sharing your perspective and views. I want to thank Beth again for the legislative advocacy education she's been giving us over the past few months and the work that she's put into those packets. Also want to echo the Thanksgiving holiday coming up and Christmas holidays coming up and wish everyone well and that you're able to count all your blessings for the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday. And hopefully I'll be back in town for the December meeting. So see you all then. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Watson.
Thanks. I had the opportunity to attend a couple of coffee chats that Travis mentioned and the Faith Luncheon. Really great events. Thanks to the communications team for putting those together. The speakers at the Faith Luncheon were kind of amazing and talking about the intersection of how all of these faith organizations help our schools in ways that may not seem obvious. Frequently on Sunday mornings, my wife and I help St. Vincent de Paul collect food for the food bank there, and I didn't even know that some of that ends up in our schools from time to time. So it was interesting to make this sort of connection with my personal life. Like, oh, how about that? So that was great. Yes, OSBA conference, great reminder of why we all do this, opportunity for us to learn a little bit. Maybe 2 years ago, I think because I mention it so often, somebody called me the CSL guy. But then maybe the most rewarding thing of my whole weekend was 3 board members grabbing me and saying, the only reason we understand what CSL means and how it's not funded accurately is because of the way you described it. It was so confusing. So it was like, my heart was overflowing. So that's probably the best compliment I got all week, maybe all month. So yeah, I'm fine being the CSL guy. And then a nearby board member said, he is moving on to say CSL isn't enough. But I can still be the CSL guy and talk about how that's not what we should be targeting. That's probably, we talked a lot. Thanks. That's all.
Thank you, Director Watson. I want to first off say thank you for being here tonight and for our speakers. It's always great to hear from you. And Beth, it's always great to learn from you. And it's great that everybody got to hear everything that you've been working on. And I wanted to say, it's going to be Thanksgiving soon, so I hope we have a great Thanksgiving and a very well-deserved break. And with that, I want to thank you for being here and engaged in this work. And with that, this meeting is adjourned at 8:32.